I mean, this is like the secret nobody is sharing. And that is this project from the very beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about the Elephant Money exploit. I'm going to give you an update. We're going to look at where we go from here. I'm going to share my thoughts about the latest updates. I'm also going to share with you what I'm going to do moving forward. And there's a couple of different schools of thought out there. There's those that are pro elephant in this ecosystem. They're trying to recommend one thing, and there are those who, that they have an axe to grind. They're tribalistic because they're rooting for their favorite project, and somehow they want to hate on elephant, and they're telling you to do something else. Listen, here's the problem with my channel. The fanboys don't like me, and the enemies of the current project don't like me either, because I think that the truth is always somewhere in the middle. So I believe we have to look at this somewhat objectively and make our own decisions going from there. Listen, I am here because I want to be able to see the average individual investor get ahead. I don't care about any one developer or any one project. It's how do we look at the landscape that exists and extract value from that landscape no matter what. So what I'm going to share with you today on today's video, you're probably not going to get this perspective anywhere else, and that's okay with me. And I understand some of what I'm going to say is unpopular, and that's also okay with me. So if you're still watching, thank you so much for being here. And if you appreciate a little bit of objectivity in crypto, do me a favor and smash that like button. Right now, if you go back to the Medium article where this has been covered extensively, I mentioned this Medium article in my last exploit update video. Well, if you scroll down, there's been a lot more updates, but most of it is the technical stuff talking about what happened. If you don't know, Elephant Money was exploited through a flash loan attack. I saw this on Twitter this morning. PeckShield's done some forensic accounting, letting you know where everything has went and what's happened. And I'll link this down below, so that way you can have access to it. Just look at the very bottom of the description, and I'll have it down there as well. But at the end of the day, we've had a flash loan attack, and now the idea is moving forward. How do we move forward from here? What happens at this point? They've made some adjustments to the contract. Essentially, Bank Teller, the developer, has said there were funds here that helped hold the peg of the trunk token. And there was funds that paid out in the bonds here. The developer is saying that if this redemption function here went through PancakeSwap, and he said it did selectively, I think this is the word he used, then this exploit could not have occurred. So he's saying, hey, we're going on to version number 5 or whatever. He said that in a previous video that I did. And in version number 5, the redemption function is going to come 100% off of PancakeSwap. So it sounds like that fixes everything, right? And it has some potential to fix things. I mean, it's going to prevent a future exploit. Here's the problem. So you have to ask yourself, why did it? And I saw people comment in some of the Telegram groups, well, how come the redemption function didn't always come from PancakeSwap? Because PancakeSwap is a fair market. And inside of a fair market, you cannot control the price. Over here on the platform, he was able to use funds to help prop up the price. And maybe those funds came from people bonding or wherever they came from. He was using those funds to help prop up and hold the peg. And it didn't take a lot of funds. It only mattered when the peg was off a little bit. But right now, the peg is off by a lot. If the funds were available, he could immediately force peg here, and what would happen is people would buy. So that's where it would cost him money, because he has to pull the trunk token. He can't artificially change the price. That's not possible. You have to use free market conditions. So he basically could provide trunk here, probably buy it off of PancakeSwap, provide it here at $1, so he would be taking a loss. But people would then, what they would start doing is they would start buying off PancakeSwap so they could come over here and redeem. If they did that, right now it's 74 cents, so it's going down. That sucks. It's going down to 74 cents. So imagine someone coming over here, buying at 74 cents, and coming over here and redeeming for $1. If that sounds ridiculous, that's exactly what was occurring the whole time anyway. But it wasn't that big a deal when the token was only off by a couple of cents. But when it's off by 25% or more, that is a problem. And eventually, what would happen if he could keep, providing trunk tokens at $1 each? Eventually, enough people would buy over here till this thing would get really close back to $1. It would be back on peg. That's exactly what would happen. And he could fit that right now. He could fix that immediately if he had the funds to do it. I don't know if he has those funds, but if those funds were available, he could fix the peg immediately. And now the elephant token is down. I'm not going to go over the elephant token. I covered it in my previous video. It's bounced hard. I made some buys. It's come back up. We'll see what happens from there. in my opinion, the elephant token needs to continue to go up. But the most important thing, if for this thing to be sustainable long term, but the most important thing is that this trunk token has to get back on peg. The advice I'm hearing from the guys that are pro elephant: take dry powder and buy trunk, or buy elephant, DCA and buy elephant. The developer said don't sell. And now they're saying, and the reason he said don't sell is because he didn't want the price to drop, specifically on trunk. That's the immediate problem. Long term, you need elephant price to go up. But in the short term, you need that peg to come back. They're talking about, telling people to take dry powder and support the project. We all have a vested interest here, and we all need to see this succeed. The problem is it doesn't work that way. The idea that you're going to get hundreds and thousands of people to come in here and to buy at a possible loss, I mean, that's just hard to say if that's going to happen. Now, if he suddenly rolls out and you can mint for $1, but he said the redemption function was going to go to PancakeSwap. I don't think that works. Listen, I could be wrong. I'm willing to see it, but I'm like, you got to figure out how to get that peg back if you can. Every algorithmic stablecoin struggles with the free market peg of their stablecoin, and that's essentially what Trunk is an algorithmic stablecoin that was supported by the underlying ecosystem. Now, there are people who are saying this can't work. It's over with and it's done. Look, that's not true either. Does it got an uphill battle? Absolutely. Could it regain peg? Is that possible? Yes. Now, here's the challenge. Okay, so here I go. This is where the negative people have a point. I would think that Bank Teller has enough funds to help support the peg. I would absolutely, whether he bought directly on PancakeSwap or he allowed people to redeem for a short while for $1 to drive PancakeSwap price up. But that's dangerous too, because what's going to happen is the peg's going to start floating a little bit if he's relying only on PancakeSwap. So I don't know long term how he holds the peg. I don't know what I'm missing here. I don't know how they hold the peg long term. Not unless he's using funds from the contract to buy on the open market himself. And that's only going to work as long as those funds are there. But that's always been the case, by the way. That's always been the case. It's always cost him money to help maintain the peg. It just didn't cost him as much as it's going to cost him right now. So this is the big question mark right here. People are like, what do you do from here? I can tell you this. You have to look at your own risk profile. I would never feel comfortable being like, oh, just use your dry powder and just buy more. The project is in its most high-risk state right now, which is why you could make a lot of money if you come in and it works out. The project is behind the 8-ball right now. It's behind. It's one thing to be sustainable. It's another thing to battle and come back. Most projects fail. So the odds of it being successful are drastically against it in this very moment. But that doesn't mean that you have to count it out. But I'm definitely saying that you have to have a very high risk tolerance to be putting funds in this thing now. Because if you're not careful, you're in a position where you're throwing good money after bad. Some people are just better off cutting their losses and holding on. And be like, you know what, it's down so much now, I'm just going to hold on and see what happens. You have to evaluate your own personal risk tolerance. Now, some people may take the risk, and if it pays off, they're going to do really, really well for themselves. That's an individual thing. Okay, now I have said all of this being an investor. If you watch my videos, I put, somewhere around $9,000 or $10,000 total into Elephant. It lost 90% of its value. I added another two BNB worth yesterday. It's went back up. I'm somewhere around $5,000 or $6,000 in Elephant token value right now. I have almost nothing in the trunk. I've never invested in the trunk from the very, very beginning. I felt like the long-term best ROI play, although volatile, was going to be Elephant. If this project succeeded, the Elephant token should go up. The Elephant token should go up long term. That was my opinion. That's the play I was making. I say all of that because I'm going to tell you something right now that nobody's talking about. This is like the secret nobody is sharing. And that is, this project from the very beginning always had a lifespan. I said that in my very first video because they're paying out this APR. Now, they were paying out a low enough APR that if there's a community of any size, they could continue to afford to pay this out from the contract and the way the contract was raising money, the way the reserves were working. They could pay this out for a very, very long time. I think 2 years, possibly maybe more. And I'm biased, but I believe that. That's why I made an investment in the Elephant token, because I felt like if this thing lasts for 2 years, the tokenomics that I covered in my very first video, I'll link it above, the tokenomics that I covered there would cause the price of the Elephant token to get pushed up over time. And I thought potentially it could go up for a long ways. That was truly a possibility. So I was a little bit excited about that, and I was willing to buy the Elephant token and bet on that. But here's what I can tell you right now. This is the absolute fact, period, end of story. This project has been affected in a way that there is no coming back from. Even if the peg regains, even if everything starts paying out tomorrow properly, the lifespan of this project has been cut drastically short because those reserves were ultimately going to be used to pay out over here. It doesn't mean that it can't start paying out again. It doesn't mean that new funds can't come in and new participants, and it doesn't mean the elephant token can't start to go up, because that elephant token going up also helps create some funds for the treasury and that sort of thing, the way everything works. So it doesn't mean that the treasury can't fill back up and continue paying for now, but literally millions of dollars were taking from the treasury, and at some point those reserves in the treasury would have been used to pay out the holders, the stakers, the bonders, etc. But those millions of dollars are gone. So this is basically like starting over. And that's true. I heard the developer said that. He said this is like, starting back over when the project was a lot younger. And that's true. But there's a significant amount of treasury reserves that were going to be supporting this project that are gone, that are not going to come back in. I think this significantly, at least by months, if not by a year or more. And that's assuming that the lifespan has been cut short. And that's assuming that the project could even recover in the first place, which is a first big hurdle. Let's check this peg again, because I really feel like this peg's got to get on point, and I'm not seeing it. And see, here's the challenge right now. They're saying buy trunk, but if you buy trunk, most people are waiting for it to gain peg. They're literally going to sell because that's a 25% gain. They're not going to shove it over into the bonds. Most people, they're going to make a quick 25% when there's that big of a profit. The type of person who wants to make a guaranteed 25% on their money is not the same type of person who's willing to take a 0.5% payout every single day. It's two totally different types of investors. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it blows my mind how people don't realize that. But there's two different type of people. So I don't know what happens here. I'm still making a degenerate bet on the elephant token myself, but that's me. Nothing in this video is financial advice. These are my opinions. I'm not a financial advisor, but I try to be objective. I try to look at both sides of the coin and make decisions. At the end of the day, it's about how can we extract value from a project. And that's what I'm trying to do right here. However, since the exploit, this project has gotten a lot more risk elements added to it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll continue to keep you posted on this exploit and where we go from here. Decentralized cryptocurrency equals freedom, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crypto Wealth. I'm out.